Alright, hello everybody. So, surprisingly, the 1.6.2 patch dropped like a week or two earlier than I expected. So, I wasn't planning on streaming today, and I don't really have time for a full stream, but I did want to at least give my thoughts on the patch for anyone who was curious. So I'm glad to see Hidadi's Umbra price is actually better now. So that's one Umbra I would potentially go for. Just some PvE stuff up there. But alright, PvP, Temtem, Lost Resilient. That's awesome. I should mention that I did look through all these, so it's not like first thoughts. It's just like, you know, I've already reviewed them. What do I think? So Resilient being removed is good. That needed to happen, and I'm glad it did. Burglar being added, I think that's pretty whatever. It does get some, Burglar does get changed later in this patch, so it's not probably as terrible as it sounds. Bun Bun losing Resilience, very sad. I don't like this direction, but I do know that Bun Bun was pretty strong, and I think as soon as Tataru lost it, that people would have tried out Bun Bun a little bit more, and that could have caused some issues. So it's not like the worst thing that ever happened. I'm glad I got to play with Bun Bun while it was OP. Mudred's stamina nerf, or stamina buff, I mean. Like, I think this is actually one of the few things I determined that Mudred needed. Like, Mudred had a pretty solid kit. Problem is the Deluge gets nerfed later on in the patch, and this is not nearly enough compensation. I mean, it definitely helps Mudred. But, like, because of the Deluge nerf, Mudred's still going to see just as little, if not less play than it currently does. So, but they already said they're planning on buffing it in the future. I'm not sure why they're pushing like half patches. Like, why would you nerf Mudred this patch when you don't have the rest of the changes prepared for this one? You're just killing a dead Tem. Like, this would just make Mudred drop to like D tier. Well, the Deluge does, but this is just like the minimal compensation we got. Roller stamina increase, very nice. I don't like just giving raw stats. It's just like, you take out Mudred and Roller from the bottom of the stamina like rankings, and all of a sudden, like, Calibus and Volgon are going to be... Well, no, Volgon already got a stamina buff. Like, Calibus is probably going to be next in getting some stamina. And that's just silly, because we're just raising the bar for how much stamina a Tem should have. And that's just kind of what, like, stat creep does. And that's all this is. Like, Roller appreciates it, but I still think that they should be buffing, like, Tardy Rush. I think Tardy Rush is, like, Roller's identity, and that would really help if he played more. This makes it so he can use Stone Ball a lot more free rather than running out of stamina after like 2 of them. And it does give it the stamina sustain to stay on the board longer when Tardy Rush is up. So like it's not bad. It definitely helps Roller. It's just not the direction I would have gone with buffing it. So, but we'll see. I don't think Roller's going to see a whole lot more play. It doesn't fundamentally change anything for it. Owlhe lost Fury, which didn't really need it in the first place, and actually got Sentinel, which is the thing I had in my patch notes. It wasn't my idea. It was actually somebody else in chat's idea to add Sentinel to Owlhe. The whole thing with adding Sentinel is, though, like, it is very thematic, and it's nice to have, like, a support type trait on Owlhe, rather than 2 offensive ones that it just doesn't need. But the problem is that Sentinel normally wants to be in front of mental types, because they're the most common types that put Tems to sleep. However, this just means that Owlhe is going to be in front of a type it's weak to a lot more often. And now that Crystal Deluge got nerfed, like, the one Crystal type sleep move is much less prevalent. So it's also kind of counterintuitive there, but, you know. I think it's still, like, a better direction than Fuhrer, and maybe if they just dig a little deeper into Owlhe's support kit, then it's very solid. And I still think it's nice to have another Sentinel Tem available, because Sleep has still been, like, super popular in the last patch or so. Mushy lost Resilient. Seems weird. Like, I don't know why you just don't let it keep Resilient. Maybe it was, like, a little strong in the story for players that get to Tuckma and all of a sudden have a crazy strong trait. Receptive is just so bad, but it's a pre-evolution, so it doesn't help it. Mushy doesn't get, its stats are so bad that it doesn't get any value out of Resilient anyways when it had it. I don't think I saw any Resilient Mushies during the time. Size Munch. So this is actually a huge buff, 11 points in special defense. The one thing I don't like is I I think it really pushes Osekai and... Yeah, so if Osekai has 53 special defense, and Size Munch, after the buff, will also have 54. So it's just like, if you look at the stat spreads here, they've slowly been getting closer and closer together. Size Munch has a little bit more speed, but Osekai has a little bit more, or I guess it has significantly more defense. But in general, like, these two Tems have been following the same exact pattern for a long time now. And they're the same typing, so it's just like, the justification for running one or over the other is kind of like dwindling. Because normally, if you wanted a bulkier Tem, you go with Osekai. Because it had a little bit more bulk in defense, and it even had the edge in special defense after some random buffs it got a couple patches ago. But now that Size Munch actually has higher special defense, I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. Because now, Size Munch, one of the biggest problems is that you wouldn't be able to put minimal bulk in it and survive. Because what Size Munch wants to do is, it probably wants to run max speed, so it outspeeds max speed Hedgen, which it does at this speed break point. I think it reaches like 304, 305 speed. So I think it's even 1 point faster than it's either speed ties Psypad or it's 1 point higher. But Size Munch really likes to just kind of be a glass cannon, get a heat up off, and then nuke the opposing team. And I mean, this definitely enables that. It also enables slower, bulkier ones with Reactive Vial, because it's a really great type for Reactive Vial. I know it's probably Osekai's most common item. I think that we could definitely see Size Munch pop off this patch, especially with the digi changes just down a bit further. I mean, but Size Munch hasn't seen play for quite a while now, so I don't think it's bad for it to kind of pop back into the meta. They're saying to apply the Psypat treatment. I don't know. I don't agree with this. Once again, it's just throwing more stats. Like size. Let me pull up the minimum stat, or the stat chart. Can I just go? Or no, I just want the list of Temtem. Scuffed wiki stream or video. All right, so for the stamina purposes, if we go lowest Tems per stamina, so the lowest fully evolved Tem, I think is Calibus. Yeah, it's down here at 37. Gorong wants low stamina, and then we have Volar and Oshiara. Now, right above them used to be Mudrid, or it's actually still in its old spot. So, Mudrid Grandpa. But they just gave Mudrid some more. I mean, Roller has a little bit more, but it's just like some of these. If we keep giving Tem stamina, eventually everyone's gonna get a whole bunch. Like Volgon never used to have 45 stamina. It used to have like less than. It used to be second least, next to Calibus. So and then if we go into special defense now, because I know that Volcrane just got special defense in one of its last updates. So now there's no Tems with special defense under 40 fully evolved. The lowest one is Mouflank at 41. And that's Mouflank's only low stat, by the way. And it's in neutral, so it's good that it has at least one weakness. But then, before then, it would have been Size Munch and Volcrane after the special defense buff. But now Size Munch isn't even down here anymore. So it goes from being a bottom 3 in special defense to being... I don't know, you see all these fully evolved Tems we're passing, like Hazrat, Piraniant, Bastion, Babawa. Heck, it has the same special defense as Ukama now, Size Munch does. Like, that's crazy. Like, Size Munch is going to take way more hits than anyone's going to expect. And you're actually going to need options to be able to take it down. It'll help, it'll be so safe for it to get off heat ups, and if you can't outspeed with pry out to finish it off after you've chipped it down, you're going to have to eat a wreck. And if you don't have something like a Lawali to take that, it's going to hurt. So, I think Size Munch is going to be meta for probably this entire patch. Gazma. Oh my goodness, Gazma got hit hard. Losing Tornado. This doesn't matter. It already had Blizzard, and Blizzard's not great anyways. Lost Cage, who cares? And Electromagnetism, cool move. Looks like they're planning on doing some stuff later on. I still don't, once again, another patch or update that they're not really good doing the whole thing. They're just kind of testing it out and just gutting Gazma for a patch. I don't entirely mind. Gazma's been kind of nuts. But I thought, like, Gazma became a problem as soon as they overloaded its stats. And now they nerfed Tesla Prison, and on top of it, it lost Tornado. I don't think Gazma's going to see, like, any play now. This hurts it so badly. It also is no longer the best Digi partner, because it may give fast charge, but it doesn't give priority microwaves. Like, that's... Like, we haven't got to that part yet, but harmful microwaves changed to fire. But Gazma really doesn't have anything anymore. It's way too harsh. I don't like this. Like, it's always had Tornado. I don't know why we remove it now. We just remove some of the stats. Like, allow it to die in 2 hits if you have a crystal. That's what really frustrated people, again, when you are facing a Gazma. Why can my hostile Chimerian at max attack not one-shot a Gazma? And why can it still do my entire health bar with whatever it's got and outspeed me? With speed control and scaling, instead we're just like, alright, well, it's nuking people with Tornado, so we remove Tornado. Okay. Yes, that solves the problem, but was that really the root of the issue? No. So, but that's what we're stuck with now. I'm hoping that maybe, I don't know what this is gonna be in the future, but I hope it's something good. I have hopes. Resilient is gone on 2-eye, Ear Specialist. This is actually really nice. Well, no, I think all the 2-eyes are spoil sport you get from the story. I was gonna say that this is really nice for the story, but no, who cares? Alright, and these two are interesting. So, Resilient got removed from every Tem, and then specifically added to these two mid-evolutions. Vulf has like 49 base attack in special attack, which is less than Moments has in special attack, by the way. So, and Vulf doesn't have Stone Trench. I think it has Stone Ball, Embers, and Meteorite now, and even Rockfall. We'll check it out at least. But I looked at this earlier and I was just super disappointed. It keeps its low special defense, which is fine and good. But I don't know why it has such low defense. Or attack. Its defense is its redeeming stat. Like, I thought that it might be kind of interesting to have Resilient and Extinction because you're running Talisman anyways for Resilient. But surviving 3 hold with that special defense, even with Resilient, and you don't have any way to protect yourself because you don't have Stone Trench. Like, you just don't do that. At least they got Ninja, but yeah, and just no Rockfall either. It has Rockfall, but Vulf doesn't. I should say Volcrane has it. So that's kind of weird. I don't think this is going to be viable. Even after a hook, I think it's still very low on the attack spectrum. And even +2 speed, it's just going to be very middling. Minox also got it. Minox is a little more interesting, but Minox doesn't have Purgation, so it can't scale offensively. And it has all the downsides of being Minotaur's typing, but not being Minotaur with the cracked Resher trait. So it has limited moves to it. It has like Sparkling Bullet, Hasty Lunge, and Black Hole. So it has the offensive options, but its support toolkit, it's honestly just missing stats and Purgation. Stats is fine because it's a pre-evolution and Resilience is broken, but I think it needs Purgation. Because right now, it's not a threat. Like, you can ignore the thing the entire game and it's not gonna do anything to you. I think it has like 71 base attack, which isn't like horrible, but it's still definitely on the weaker end. 74, okay, 74, that's actually pretty solid. It's better than I initially gave it credit for, but it's got 35 special defense too. I don't know, I think it's gonna struggle. Because you like I said, if you really want like Resilient for like the speed portion, you're gonna run Minotaur, and if you want it for the survivability portion, you're just gonna run a bulky Minotaur. You're not gonna want Minox in front of a Crystal, anyways, to take hits because you can't hit it with either of your stabs. So I don't know. I just don't think I don't think that matters at all. It might be fun to experiment with like once or twice on both of them, but I wouldn't expect either of these to matter. It's even less. Bun Bun would have had much more of an impact. These two don't. Alright, so this is the big one. This is the really, really big one. Harmful microwaves, synergy change from electric to fire. So, at least they really acknowledge this. I still... And they actually acknowledge the whole Gazma thing, too. I disagree with this change. I know that a lot of people are like, okay, it's really good now because you're able to counter microwaves with... Or you can counter digis and not have to worry about taking super effective damage. Because if you're stacking digi and fire types, you're weak to water twice. With electric, you can't threaten both digi and electric at the same time. And when it was old and it was digi synergy, then the digis could hit you as hard as they want. But the thing is, like, with this change... This entire change is directed at this Munko's Albion combo, and even Ragnit to an extent. It was Munko's Albion and Ragnit. That was the trio. That was the issue. This change really, really hurts Chromion. It hurts Obi, because Obi wants to be a support for Digis, and this really prevents it from accomplishing that. And it also... Who's the other? I guess it helps Hedgen as well. But... Oh, Arach Knight. Yes, Arach Knight is the other one that just completely kills. But Arach Knight got changed for other reasons, so it'll be alright for that one. But, like, yeah, Moments and Cycrocs don't appreciate it. Obi, it really hurts. It basically just helps Hedgen, and it's kind of like a net negative. It's a bit of a nerf to Munko, but honestly, if people still want to run it, they're going to. I think that adding another technique to the, like another Digi technique, and replacing some of the Digi's reliance on microwaves would have been much healthier of a decision, rather than just leaving this move as it is. Like, I've been trying to think of what kind of combos you would want for Digis now, because, like, besides, like, Fire Chromion Mimit, because Mimic gets, like, Hellfire synergy, so it already likes doing that. Magmut, slow. Kapire kind of has some shenanigans with neutral Chromion, but you don't get Sinner Typer, and that really, really hurts your damage output on Chromion. Auhi, it's okay, but once again, you don't really have synergy with physical Auhi unless you're running neutral Chromion, which doesn't help. And special Auhi just doesn't have immediate damage output that an aggressive Chromion wants as a pair. You might be able to pair it with, like, a slower Munko. Like, a Munko has enough bulk. Pair it with Auhi or something. You can, like, burn through and then survive electric and water type stack weaknesses somehow. I don't know. I think it's too tough. Raiken really won't pair well with Digis. Scarevolt is slow. Hedgen is Hedgen. We might see some, like, Mimit Hedgens now. Drakash was actually already on most Digi teams and just accepting the water weakness. So I think Drakash might be, like, the best partner, because it also counters the, like, electric types. Mastion, I think some people are experimenting with right now. Kind of like a water Chromion with Mastion. That's about the best combo I think people have seen. Because you get to keep Sinner Typer and you enable Prio on both. But even the Mastion isn't afraid of Digis. It doesn't like electrics and it doesn't like toxics. And having water Chromion it doesn't really help you out there. You'd have to beat things down neutrally, and even maybe like Lava Wave, Pyromaniac, Fire Chip with like a Sinner Type or Chromion with marbles or something can just barely break through with 2 neutral hits. But the bulk creep is so high that I don't think that's an option, and you're still going to die to a 2x, at least on the Chromion, and you just leave the Mastion without synergy. So I think it'll just kind of be a gimmick and then fall off. Tolkien it might work with for a patch, but once it loses Fiery Soul, I think that's going to die out too. Volcrane's just bad Drakash, at least in this scenario. Koish, you're not going to run Koish with... I mean, maybe it's honestly like similar to the Mastion reasoning, but it's got Quetzal instead of Lava Wave, so you probably aren't going to do that. Hazrat, I thought of like a fun thing with Toxicromia on Hazrat, because you can waste water into a Venom spread, and I'm probably going to try that on my next stream and probably just during the week, because I think it sounds fun. Is it going to be good? Oh, no, no, no. It's not going to be anything more than kind of a gimmick. But at least they have the same game plan, and it enables Sinner Typer. Anatan slow, Tyrannax slow, so it's just... Your options are relatively limited. It's not like they don't exist, but you have 2 4x weeks to water. Maybe we'll see some Water Custodian and Geist see some use now. I don't know. I think this is going to hurt more than it's going to help. Blue screen got changed to low. Glad they did this. I'm sorry for all the control players, because this really kind of kills the playstyle. But it was so frustrating. I'd like them to try and compensate with some other control options. Like, I still think Lowaddle could almost use Bamboozle. Maybe not, but it would be some amount of compensation for this, because this hurts so badly. And I don't think, like, people say, like, the Seadora with this is going to be so strong. No, I don't think there's any chance of that. Because Nagais kind of has a different play style than the control teams want to have. It does have Hypnosis, so it's not like it's completely adverse to it, but it's such specific planning. I just don't think it's going to be able to be consistent. This is the other big one. Lots of people just wanted 1 turn of Sleep on Deluge, and then it would have been just fine. But instead, they decided to add a hold and leave it as is. So this hurts... This actually hurts Mudrid more than anyone else, because Mudrid is the squishiest Deluge user. And then there's also like Crystal Chromion, which isn't going to be used anyways. But I mean, Crystal Chromion could have been used with Auhi, had this not been the case. It'll hurt Zenarith a little as well, immediately. But Zenarith, Tortonite, and Waspine all have the bulk to really survive the extra turn that I don't think is going to change a whole lot, and it's still going to be an annoying 2-sleep option. But you won't be able to just cycle it when constantly force a 1v1 if you have a speedy Tort or Zeno. So that much is nice. It does help, it's just not the direction I would have taken. It's not like Zenarith or Tortonite have a better option to run in their toolkits. Like, they're still going to be slotting this move every time. It does still really hurt Waspine between Blue Screen Nerf and Crystal Deluge. But it's... I don't know. I don't think Waspine's going to see play. I'm really surprised it got nerfed so bad. With no compensation. Like, if they're going to keep nerfing Waspine, at least give it something in return. I still think that they should at least give Waspine the option of being like a bruiser with turbo attack and have Waxbath raise attack or something like that. But we'll see. Maybe they will down the road. Bird season finally got buffed to 100%. Thank you, Crema. It only took like over half a year of people asking for this exact change ever since it was announced. I don't think Grandpa's going to be like top tier by any means, but I think it's definitely going to see some use, because you can no longer, like with Gazma, which was the 4x wind resist, like your Turoks and Tolkiens and Tuvines aren't going to be able to pivot into wind moves. And they won't be able to use them either. Like, you can Turbine a Grandpa or Tornado it, but like Tolkien's the only one with Prio if you need to outspeed Grandpa that can hit it normally effective, and it's losing Fiery Soul next patch, so I think it'll see a bit more use, because it's one of the only Tems that counters both winds and toxics, and I think it almost might kind of take Gazma's place, because that was kind of one of the reasons why Gazma was strong, besides everything else about it. Alright, so Burglar, no longer once per battle. So initially, like, Burglar was when you apply the exhaust or sleep condition, it disables the opponent's item. But apparently they removed that. Burglar can now disable 2 gears at once if the technique triggering it affects multiple targets. Interesting, but I mean that's kind of just goes with the it can proc more than once sort of thing. New effect when hitting a target that's already affected with sleep or exhaust. So this is actually how it used to work prior to this change. So if you're like, say you're Vulfy and you have Burglar and you use Plague itself will not disable an item. But let's say you're Tataru now, because Tataru has Burglar, and you use Ultrasound on one Tem, which inflicts exhaust on both opponents, and then Bestial Charge. Then you can get it on both, or if you just use like Energy Manipulation and Major Slash or something, then you can disable it. I don't think this is going to be too strong. I mean, there definitely are some gears that have a larger effect than they probably should in the game. Stuff like Sweatband, even like Energy Drink can be important. Because like one of the other things is that people are theorizing with this is Voodoo Lowaddle with Emanip to have spread exhaust, and then you just use like Bestial Charge or Sandstorm from Vulfy Tataru to disable both. But no Vulfies are going to run Burglar because they just decided to rebuff Team Elusive. Like, I mean, I think this is probably okay. It's just that Team Elusive does get so much free value, and Vulfy's still going to see use. Vulfy's still on the, honestly, like the weaker end of Tems, at least stat-wise. It just has a crazy typing, where if it has type advantage against anything, it's just going to be so threatening. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see a lot more Vulfies around. We probably will, just because Vulfy is also kind of a nicer counter to Size Munch. I know it's still weak to... It's still weak to the melee side of Size Munch, but it's a good pivot into Size Munch Wreck, because it doesn't even get hit by it. Resilient actually got changed down to +2 speed instead of +3, even though it's only on 2 mid-Tems, but I think that's fine. Here's the other big one, at least as far as traits go, is the bug with Adaptive, where it actually takes damage after it changes typings, is now a feature, and they basically said that they just couldn't fix it. There were so many bugs with this back and forth that they decided to make it a feature. And you know what I think about this? I hate it. I hate this. This is even, for me, this is even worse than the harmful microwaves change. I was so excited to play Arach Knight now with Overclock, so you could overclock into Adaptive, be +2 speed, +2 special attack, and have Arach Knight be a nuker. And that, when the few games I got to play of it, it was a blast. Taking down a Saku from 75% health with a knockback is just crazy. But now it's only +1 special attack, and it's more or less meant to be, it's going to be used a lot more as a defensive trait, because you effectively have 7 resists and only 2 weaknesses the first time you're hit. Beyond that, you take on whatever type it is. But at least for that specific turn. And I think people are just going to build this thing full bulk and just play it as like a special bruiser. And it's going to still dish out plenty of damage because of the special attack boost, but it's going to hit a lot less hard. It's a pretty significant nerf. I think it definitely needed it because it's going to be this way. It's just, this is so sad for me because this isn't the direction I wanted Arach Knight to go, and I wanted it to keep that nuker option with Overclock and Adaptive. And I'm really glad that I got to try it out for at least a little bit before this happened. So, but yeah, I'm no longer interested in playing Arach Knight, and even though it was one of my favorite Tems that I was looking forward to. So this is another big one. So there was a lot of confusion on this, where does this mean that you take 75% reduced damage, or do you take 75% of an attack's damage? So it's effectively, do you take 3x instead of 4x or 1x instead of 4x? And it looks like it's 1x. So I think Straw Shield was already in a really good spot at 50%. I think it was used on a lot of Tems, stuff like the Waddle, Whip Lump. I was using it on 2-wire and having success. I think I even saw it on a couple Gyarios, it was good. I used it on Bobble, it was good. And this just makes it so it gets so much more value. Like, you're making a good gear even stronger. This needed to happen anyways, so this is just kind of whatever. But I don't think this is a good change. I think this is going to push a few Tems over the edge. You could even run this on Munko now and not be afraid of facing other Digis. Like, all of a sudden, Munko kind of jumps up to be one of your best Digi counters in the game, straight up because of this item. Tuckma Mask, so it doesn't actually reduce the like 8% toxic damage or whatever anymore, but it completely removes the poison condition, which is kind of nice. This is just, it's a nice little bonus. I don't think it's anything crazy. It would be nice to have an item that still reduces toxic damage. I don't know why we can't combine it with both, at least kind of make it like Pan Sunscreen. But poison is a stronger status condition than burn, so it makes enough sense. I don't think this is anything crazy. I don't think we're going to see Tuckma Mask everywhere. The game's just not popular enough that we're seeing meta teams spamming Toxics and wins right now anyways. So usually, like, the most you're going to see is that this gets value preventing a Toxic tick from, like, a Wastewater. And maybe occasionally, if you face, like, a Nidrasil, you can swap it into Spores and Allergic Spread, with, like, worry-free. But I think that's about the extent of it. I didn't actually look at the fixes much, but these are something you guys could all look through. There's so many fixes. I'm glad they're fixing a lot of things. I wasn't actually having a whole lot of bugs in this last patch, so I'm not looking for anything in specific. I guess there's a Goulder one. But yeah, so I mean that's kind of all for the patch. This was already ended up a lot longer than I was expecting it to be, but I gave my in-depth thoughts, and it's basically what I would have said on stream, except I'm just not doing a stream. So yeah, I mean, long story short, Vulfy and Munch are going to be super popular. Control teams are in a bit worse of a spot, and Digis are probably dead. I think we could see a lot more melees and mentals come out of the cracks now, because one of their biggest threats being Digis is in a really bad spot right now. But we'll just have to wait and see. Just have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Probably this weekend with some more actual matches. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. See ya. Bye.